Hey, beautiful and amazing creators. Welcome back to the channel. So, today I want to create this milkmaid top, and I'm going to be making this particular tutorial beginner friendly. We're going to go through every step together. So, please pay good attention to everything I'm going to be doing. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, or the first thing I am going to do, is grab my pattern paper, which is here. I'm using a cardboard paper for this tutorial, so you can use any kind of paper for your creation to create this particular top. You can use any kind of pattern paper, but then I have my cardboard paper here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my cardboard paper into two equal parts. Okay, so that should be the first thing you do. Fold your cardboard paper or your pattern paper into two equal parts, like I'm doing right now. So why I am doing this is because I want to know the middle point of this paper so I can mark the front and the back together. Okay, so I folded this into two equal parts, and now I have the middle points here. So I'm just making it flat, so when I open, I have the middle line here. So I'll go ahead and rule out that middle line. Now I have the middle line here, demarcating the front and the back. The next thing we should do is mark down 1 inch from the top of the pattern paper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my tape to mark down 1 inch from the top of the pattern paper. Okay, so this is why we demarcated the pattern. Here is going to be for the front and here is going to be for the back. Okay, so front and back. Okay, so now that is done, we're gonna move on to the next step. All the measurements we're going to be marking is going to be from this line. This line here is going to be acting as the starting line, which is the shoulder line. Okay, so I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement into two and mark this down here. Now the measurements you need are going to be on the screen. So look at what I'm doing, all the measurements I'm taking on the screen, and take yours on your own body and mark this down on your pattern paper. Okay, my shoulder measurement is 15. I'm going to hold on to the point here, which is 15. I'll fold my tape into two. So 15 divided by 2 gives you 7.5. So I'm going to mark 7.5 from this open edge here at the front, from here, and on the top here. I'll mark 7.5 from this point here in. That should be what you're doing as a beginner. Just follow my step. Okay, this is the shoulder. Now from this point here where we have the shoulder measurement, I'm going to mark 1 inch down for the slope. Okay, so you should mark that to go down by 1 inch for your slope. The next thing we're going to do is, from this point here, I'm going to mark 3.5 inches for my neck width. Okay, for the neck width, I'll go in by 3.5 and I'll mark this down here. And once I have the 3.5 inches down, now I can connect this point here to this point, and that is it for this part. So this is the neck width, end for the neck width, and this is the slope. Okay, hope you got that part. Now the next thing we're going to do is divide the round armhole by 2 and mark that down from this point. Okay, my round armhole is 16. I'll divide 16 by 2. This is 16. I'll hold on to the point 16, fold my tape into 2 like this, and 16 divided by 2 gives you 8 inches. Now I mark 8 inches from the slope down. So before I connect this with a straight line, I'm going to confirm that the measurement I have from here to here as my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5, is the same width I have from here to here. So they have to correspond, okay? I'm just going to confirm that measurement, 7.5. And I am off a little bit by just a point. I'll just adjust that back. Now I'll connect this point here to this point. And then rule and horizontal line here. Okay, so this is where the armhole measurement will be sitting. Now moving on, the next thing we're going to do is mark the actual vertical measurement. And the first measurement I'm going to be marking on the pattern paper is the bust point. To do that, I'm going to place my tape from the starting line, which is the shoulder line, this line here, and then I'll go down by 10 inches. That is my bust point. So now to take your bust point, the measurement is going to be on the screen. Please go ahead and take your own bust point and mark this down on your pattern paper, okay? So this here is my bust point, okay? The next point we're going to be marking is the under bust point, and we're going to be marking this from the starting line down. You place your tape from the starting line, which is the shoulder line, go down and mark your under bust point. This here is my under bust points. Okay, moving on, the next point I'm going to be marking is my waist point or my length. Okay, so the length is going to be acting as the waist point, and for this top, because it's a crop top, it's kind of a crop top, it's not like a full length top, I'm going to be using 17 inches as the length of my top. So that is what I'm going to be marking, 17 inches. And to do this, I'm going to place my tape from the starting line and go down by 17 inches as my waist line. So this is the waist or the length. Now, once we're done with that step, the next thing we're going to do is mark the darts. And to do this, to get your darts, you have to mark your apex point, which is your nipple to nipple. So I am going to divide my nipple to nipple by 2, and then I'll mark this down on the pattern paper. I'm going to mark this down on the bust point. I'll mark this down on the under bust point and also on the waist. So my nipple to nipple is 8 divided by 2 gives you 4. So I'll mark 4 inches from here. From the edge, I'll go in by 4. So this is the apex line. Okay, this is the apex line, and we're done with that. The next one we're going to do is take the dart. Okay, and to take the dart, I am going to be marking 1 inch in on the waist point. From this apex line, I'll go in here by 1 inch, and I'll go in here by 1 inch. So this is how you take your dart. And what we're trying to do is create a 3D on the pattern paper. So this particular pattern or this particular top we're going to be creating fits the body properly. Okay, so now I have my 1 inch here and my 1 inch here on the waistline. That is where I marked 1 inch and 1 inch, making it 2 inches. I'll move to the bust point here. I'll come down by 1 inch. So I'm coming down on the apex line. That's where I'm coming down by 1 inch. So once I have that, I can connect this 1 inch that I came down on the bust line. I'll connect this to this point here, and I'll connect this to this point. Now this is called your dart legs, and this is how you take your dart legs. So if you're a beginner and you're paying really close attention to what I'm doing, trust me, you're going to get this right, and you're going to understand all the process. Okay, the purpose of this video, for us to create the pattern together, is for you to understand how to do this without watching my videos. So this is what I have for my darts. So here is the dart. And we're done with this side. Okay, so now before we go ahead and start adjusting this pattern to get the cups, let's go ahead and mark the middle point of the armhole and create the cuff for the armhole, because I'm going to be using that to create my off shoulder. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now on the armhole here, from the slope to the armhole point, I'll place my tape and divide what I have there by 2 to get the middle point. So I have 8 inches. I'll fold my tape into 2 because I'm trying to divide by 2. And now I have the middle point. Now from the middle point, I'll go in by 0.75. I'm just trying to create the curve, and this is how I create it. Now see the way I place my tape, going in by 0.75. I make sure that my tape is straight from the middle point, and I marked in 0.75. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect. But before then, I'll divide my round bust, this bust here, my round bust, I'll divide it by 4, and I'll mark the measurement here on my armhole. So my round bust is 36, divided by 4 gives you 9. I'm just going to mark 9 here on the armhole line. Now I can use my curve ruler to connect this point here to this point with the curve. So if you don't have a curve ruler, that is not a biggie. You can do this with your free hand. Just make sure you get a curve from this point to this point, okay? Okay, get a curve. And now I'll use straight ruler to connect the middle point here, or the 0.75 here to this point. Okay, let me just write 0.75 to this point. And we are done. So let's go ahead and start adjusting the pattern to get a cup. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do towards that purpose is to go to my underbust point here. This is my underbust line. I'm going to mark 1 inch up from the underbust, from the center front of the underbust. I'll mark 1 inch up. Now I can use my curve ruler to connect the 1 inch to this point here, to this dart leg here. So here to here, I'm connecting with a curve. You don't necessarily need a curve ruler, okay? Please do not stop creating this pattern because you don't have a curve ruler. You can do this without a curve ruler. Just make sure you get a curve from here to this point here. Okay? From here to this point here. And this here is 1 inch. 1 inch, okay? And like I said, here is the center front. So I labeled that CF, okay? Please do not get confused, okay? Do not get confused. Now we have this part here sorted out. We're done with this particular side here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to um I'll move over to the armhole here, this curve here, and I'm just going to mark 2.5 inches from this point here to this point. I'll mark 2.5 inches. And what I'm trying to do is create my off shoulder, okay? This top we're creating is an off shoulder top. So I'm marking 2.5 inches, see? From this point to this point, 2.5. Now, at this point here where I have the 2.5, okay, 2.5, I'm going to mark 0.75 inch in. So make sure your line is straight from that point, 0.75. Here. Here is also 0.75. Please do not forget, okay? So I have 0.75 from here. Make sure it's on a straight line. Let me confirm again. Now that is done, I'll come to this point here. Here. I'll mark down ½ inch. I'm just trying to adjust this so it fits me properly, okay? I'll mark ½ inch down. ½ inch is 0.5. That's what I marked down from this point, okay? Where we have the round bust divided by 4. That's what I marked. I came down to mark. This is now our new armhole line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark from here. I'm going to mark ½ inch in. I'm just going to mark ½ inch on this point. Okay. See where my tape is. So what I'm assuming is this line is down here. And I'm just going to go in by ½ inch. Now I can use my curve ruler to connect these 2 points together from here to here. So I have the curve here, stop in here. And now I can use my curve ruler also to go from this dart leg to this point, okay? From this part here on the underbust, this part here, from here, this dart leg here, I'll connect to this ½ inch I marked here, okay? So here is ½ inch from here, which is me assuming that this line came down and I just marked ½ inch on the armhole. So it's like going 0.75 from this point here to this point, okay? And I brought it down. Please do not get that confused. And now I'll use my curve ruler to connect this dart leg to this point. Okay? I hope you all got this part. Really, really important to get this part, okay? So now I have this done. I have created my side cup. We're going to still slash and spread this, okay? So this is like my side cup. And the next thing I'll do is for my bust point here, this part from the center front of my bust point, I'll go up by 2 inches. And this is my chest. This is going to be like the chest line for this top. So I'll just mark 2 inches up. So on this part, it depends on how much coverage you want. Okay, so if you have bigger bust, you want to mark 3 inches on the armhole, like from this point here, go up by 3 inches, and then from that 3 inches, mark your 0.5 inch in and create this curve to get that coverage you want. But then what we're trying to create, the coverage on the top is not too much. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get the perfect coverage I want for the top. And now I'll connect this 2 inches to this point. And we're kind of done. Okay, we're just going to divide our round measurements by 4 and mark it. So here we go. So this is the cup. I marked 2 inches here upwards from the bust, 2 inches. And you guys, let's go ahead and divide the round measurements by 4. That is the next step. So the first measurement we're going to be dividing by 4 is the bust point, which we already have the measurements here, but we're just going to go ahead and do it again. So I'll divide my bust, my round bust by 4 and mark it down on the bust line. So you can see that this is the same line we have here. So I'll just connect. The next is the under bust. I'll divide my round under bust by 4 and I'll mark it on the under bust line. My round under bust divided by 4 is 8. And I'm going to replace the dart. Okay, it is very, very necessary you replace your dart so you don't run short. It is just how it is. You always have to replace your dart. So what I have here is 1 inch. I'll replace 1 inch back. And then I'll connect. Now the next thing now is to divide the round waist by 4 and mark this down on the waistline. Also not forgetting to replace the darts. My round waist divided by 4 gives you 7.5, and replacing my dart 1 inch 1 inch gives you 2 inches. Let's confirm that. So I have 2 inches here. I'll place that here. Then connect. Okay, so here's the center front, here is the side front, and we're done. Now what we're going to do is add 1 inch 1 inch 1 inch, and this is just the allowance for sewing. Now if you don't want to add your allowance at this point, you can stop, go ahead and cut out your pattern, but then it is necessary you do this so you don't forget. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to add 1 inch allowance on all points, starting from this point here. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. You can also go ahead and add your 1 inch down here if you want, or half an inch. Depends on what you want to do. So let me go ahead and add that. I'm going to be adding 1 inch for hemming and any other thing that was going to be happening or joining to the lining. This is actually not necessary, but yeah, you can do it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this pattern because we're done. Please note everything we did, okay? It is important. Now please take note of what I'm doing right now. When I get to this point here, I'm going to go like this, okay? So because we're not going to be cutting this cup, like we're going to be spreading this cup, it's a different type of pattern. Um, so please note that you're not going to cut that here connecting to the bust. You're just going to get to this point and you know go in from this 1 inch, okay? Okay, so this is what I mean. We're cutting out this point. We're cutting out this whole point minus this point here. So okay, so once I was done cutting this out, this is what I have. I have three patterns for the front. I have the center front, I have the side front, and then I have the cup. Now we're going to go ahead to slash and spread the cup. But before then, let's draft out the back pattern, okay? And then we'll come back to slashing and spreading the cup so that we can get the amount of ruche that we see on the top. So make sure that your pattern is looking exactly like what I have here, okay? You see this dart was not cut off. Make sure you don't cut yours because we're going to be slashing and spreading this, so you don't need to cut out your darts. But that is it on the front pattern. I'm just going to keep this aside and we'll be back to this, okay? This is the back um, pattern, and as you can see, I've gone ahead to draft out the back a little bit, not totally. We're going to do the rest together, but I just want you guys to see what I have here. Now, you see, I went ahead to mark my neckline. Let me label this so you don't get confused. So this is the neck, just the way we did for the front. This is the slope. This is the shoulder measurement here at this point. Shoulder. Okay, so from the shoulder we got the slope, and then we have the armhole here. So once I have the armhole, I've not created the armhole curve. We're going to do that together. But then now I have the bust point here. I have my under bust point here. I have the length, which is also the waist. So what I have here is exactly what we did for the front, but then I did this off the camera so that I don't take too much of your time. So just go ahead and duplicate what you did for the front without the that and without the armhole curve, and we're just going to continue from that point, okay? So if you have this done, let's go ahead and start creating the back pattern. And to do this, we're going to mark the middle point of this armhole. So you place your tape from the slope just the same way we did for the front. You divide into two by folding your tape like this, and you mark the middle point. Now once you have the middle point, we'll go in by 0.5 inch here, 0.5 inch, and then we're just going to mark that. Let me use the blue marker. So 0.5 inch here. So you guys remember what we did when we divided the round bust by 4 and marked it on the armhole? We're going to be doing the same thing for this back. So I'm going to mark my round bust divided by 4 on the armhole line like this. And then use my curve to connect the middle point here, which is the 0.5, okay, to this point with a curve ruler. And like I mentioned before, you don't need a curve ruler for this. You don't necessarily need a curve ruler for this. If you don't have a curve ruler, please let that not be your excuse for not creating this, okay? Don't use that as an excuse. You can actually get this curve without using a curve ruler, okay? So just be resourceful. Okay, so this is the back armhole curve. The next thing we're going to do is mark out the darts, okay? So what we did on the front, we divided the nipple to nipple by 2, and we marked that down on these points, the bust, the under bust, and the waist. So we're going to do the same. My nipple to nipple is 8 inches, divided by 2 gives you 4. So I'm going to mark 4 from here, the center back to this point. Okay. So this is my apex line. Connect to get a straight line before we mark the darts. So this is the apex. So you guys note that this, what we're creating, is going to have a zip. So I'm going to later attach an extra pattern once I'm done drafting to get the zip. Okay, so that's, I just want us to draft out this first, then we'll create the zip. Okay, you can either create it now on the pattern, or while cutting on the fabric we'll add the 1 inch for the zip, but let's go ahead. Okay, so now I have the apex line. I'm going to extend this armhole line out to this point because the dart that we're going to be marking is going to get to that point. So I'm just going to extend it. I think the extension is not okay. This is the extension, and then take the apex line up. Okay, so we extended the armhole line, and now we're going to mark the darts. So for the darts, like I did for the front, I'm going to do the same thing for the center back. I'm going to mark 1 inch here, 1 inch here for the darts on the waistline, which is the length. So I'll go in here by 1 inch, and then I'll go in here by 1 inch. Now you can decide to use half inch for the back. It doesn't really matter. So, but I'm using 1 inch because I'm going to be replacing that same amount back. Okay, so now on the armhole line here, I'm going to mark half inch down, not on the bust. Remember, for the front we marked 1 inch down for the darts. We came down on the bust line, but this is the back. So what we're going to be doing is on the armhole, we're going to come down by half inch. Okay, now this half inch we have here, we'll connect this to the 1 inch here and 1 inch here. Okay, just the way we did for the front, like this, like this. Now please take note of what I'm doing. I decided to change the marker so you see that what we're doing right now is different from what we did before. So this and this. Okay, so this point here is 0.5, which is half inch, and this is what we have. So once we have this, we have to go ahead and create the off-shoulder armhole just the way we did for the front. And remember what we did, right? We're going to go up here from this curve. We'll go up here by 2.5, up on the curve like this. Okay, here, sorry, 2.5. Okay, now this 2.5 we have here, we're going to mark 0.75 in, just the way we did for the front. We're going to be adjusting just exactly the same way we did. So I'll mark 0.75 in from that point. Okay, it has to be on the straight line. So here is my 0.75. Okay, and here to come down just the same way we did by half an inch. So there is no need for marking this. There's no need for us to mark half an inch here. Like there's no need. We're just gonna create the curve from this point. Okay. So yeah, that's basically it. Or you can still come in by the half inch and create your curve, but it doesn't really matter. So what we just did is just adjust this to the off shoulder. So you can just mark your half inch and connect, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. Be careful how you do this. So the curve did not really curve the way I wanted it to curve. But yeah, you can always go ahead and adjust, okay? You have that option to always adjust. And I'm just going to connect from the armhole here to this point, okay? But then I actually want this to be, I want it to be deep. Let's just do that. Okay, so this is what I have. And like I said, if you want it to be deeper than this, you can come in here and so let me do that because that's what I want, okay? I want mine to be deep, so you can do this. This is option one. Option one, you can do this. But then I want mine to be deep, so I'm just going to mark half inch up from the bust line. So this is the bust line, I'll mark half inch up. And then I'm just going to connect using my black marker. So this is option one and this is option two. So this is what I want. Make it a little bit curvy. I just want my back to be down, okay? That is why I'm trying to do this adjustment, okay? So I know if you're a beginner, you're going to be wondering what I'm trying to do and you're going to be a little bit confused, but please don't be confused, okay? If you do this option one, it is correct. If you do this option two, it is correct, but then whatever you decide to do is going to be correct, okay? But yeah, that is essentially it. Now drafting out a pattern is just for you to be creative, okay? It's just for you to look at the pattern and just do exactly what you want to see, okay? That is one thing about creating pattern. So you can just create and then be creative and adjust just the way you want it to be. But then once we're done with this, we're done with creating the armhole and getting how deep the back will be. I'm just going to go ahead and divide my round bust by 4 and mark that on my bust line. Okay. Now we're going to be replacing the darts we have here. You can see that there is a dart here, right, on the bust. When we were creating for the front, there was no darts, but then here there is a dart to be replaced and it's just less quarter and a point. So replace that back, quarter and a point. Quarter and a point. It's going to go up here too. Now divide the underbust by 4 and mark this down also, just the same way we did for the front. My underbust is 8. Replacing my darts, I have 1 inch here. I have I have 1¼ inch, so I'll replace 1¼ inch here. Connect. Okay, now waist divided by 4 and replace your dots. So divide your round waist by 4. Round waist is 7.5, and the dot I have here is 2 inches. I'm just going to replace that back and then connect. So this is it. Now what we're going to do next is just add the allowance we added for the front, and that is 1 inch. So I'm just going to use my black marker to do that. 1 inch total, 1 inch everywhere. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. Yeah, so this is the center back, this is the side back, and we're going to be adding the zip allowance at the center back here. So because I don't want to confuse you, so let me just indicate that here, here, add zip. Okay, let's go ahead and cut. Okay, you guys, I forgot to tell you that while cutting out my front pattern, I took off the allowance I added because I want to add that on the fabric. Okay, when I'm drafting out the fabric, that's when I want to add my allowance. So I took out that 1 inch. So I'm not going to be adding 1 inch at the base. I'll do that when I'm cutting on the fabric. Okay, it's actually really easier to do that on the fabric than on the pattern after marking out your dots. So please do not forget, as you're watching this, just go ahead and like this video. Okay, if you're watching this video and it's really helpful to you and it's really easy for you to understand, please go ahead and like. Okay, so like I said, any of this is going to be fine. You can even decide to come lower than this. Most people go lower. Okay, so you can decide to come lower than this. But yeah, this is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using this particular line that I came down by, this line. So you can try to use this. Okay, you're not going to be wrong. You can try to use this option. Okay, you're not going to be wrong. So any of them is good. So this is the back. You can see this is it, very correct. And this is the front. So I'll keep my patterns, the rest aside, and let's work on this one. So to get my slash and spread for the front, I'm going to mark 1.5 inch apart. So 1.5 inch in apart so I can slash this. Okay. Okay, so here is one. Please go ahead and label out your pattern before cutting out your slash. Okay, please label it out so you know how to fix it back together. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Okay, so now we're going to spread this particular pattern to get the ruche. Hope that was easy. So I'm going to get a new pattern paper. I fold this into two to get a middle line. Okay, so this is my middle line. I'll roll that out so it is visible to everybody. So this is the middle line, and this line here is going to be acting as the bust line. Okay, bust line. And now we're going to use the bust line to spread this particular pattern. Okay, using my tape. The first I'll be putting down is the front, the number one. So I'm going to put down the number one here. I'll just give a little bit of space because I will be adding allowance for folding. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that the red line here, which is the bust line, aligns. Okay, you guys remember that the bust line is the line that we have visible here, the red line. So I'll make sure the red line aligns with my black line. Okay, and then I'll use my tape to hold it down. Okay, so number one is carefully put. I'm going to mark 3 inches apart, and that should do it. 3 inches apart should do it. And on these 3 inches, I'll be placing my number 2, making sure the red line, this red line aligns. Okay, that is what we're using to spread. So number 2 is carefully put. The next is going to be number 3, and we're going to mark 3 inches apart before placing the number 3. So 3 inches. If you're really passionate about this, do not say anything is hard or anything is or not understandable, because that's not true. If you really want to understand anything, you can. Okay, you just have to put your mind into it. Okay, so do not feel like any of this process is difficult. Okay, if you have any question, you can ask me in the comment section. I am always available to answer your questions. Okay, so yeah, once we're done, go ahead and use your marker or your pen to trace this out. Okay, just follow the line. So the last and not the least step is for us to add half an inch for, we're going to be folding this to create a channel for to pass our straps, and then we're going to be joining this to the down part. So we're going to add half an inch here, half an inch here, half an inch here, and that is it. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out. So this is the front. This is how the front pattern looks. We're going to be ruching this all together. Okay, now once we're done with this, the next thing we're going to do is the zip. This center back, we're going to be adding 1 inch zip allowance, and that is it for this video. Okay, and now this is the center back, and you can see I wrote add zip. Okay, and the zip, the allowance of zip we're going to be adding is 1 inch. So I'm just going to place it like this and use my tape to hold this down. now I can add my zip. That is 1 inch. And this here is 1 inch zip. Okay, and we are done. I appreciate you for watching. I appreciate that you're liking this video right now that I'm talking. Go ahead and like, okay? And yeah, that is it. I'll see you guys on the sewing version. Bye for now.